Alright everyone, it's time to talk about how hating women is not a Western value. I've made no small issue of the fact that I reject MGTOW, men going their own way, for the same reason that I reject third wave feminism, and what I've come to the conclusion of is this. There are people who call themselves MGTOW that are actually just rudimentary MRAs and their primary concern is judicial in nature. They're like, well, I don't want to get screwed by the court system. Understandable. I can somewhat sympathize with you. It'd be the same as women that are worried about rape. So there are some third wavers would say, well, all men are rapists and they should all be castrated and stuff. We need to put tracking implants in all men to make sure they don't rape. And then there are people who simply have a legitimate concern. Well, yeah, I might get raped at some point. I'm concerned that the court system doesn't do enough about the fucking situation, which again, I can sympathize with. But hating women in general, or distrusting women in general without having specifically met a significant sum of women, to me seems like lunacy. It seems that a lot of people within these groups simply extrapolate a handful of bad relationships they've been in, or situations where they've seen a bunch of stories about some really whacked out third waver who does want to kill man, does love the fact that child support differentials exist within the judiciary or something, and they take that and they conflate it to mean, oh, well, most women must think the same way. But that's all propaganda. That comes from yellow journalism, groups like Vox and Vice and the Young Turks and stuff like that. These sort of rags, these tabloid outlets that are somehow have supposedly journalistic credibility and actually have reporters with press passes and shit like that, which they shouldn't have because they don't ever do fair reporting, let's face it. It'd be a little bit like giving a press pass to Matt Drudge to go cover the Nancy Pelosi speech or something like that, I suppose. Yeah, give it to the ghost of Andrew Breitbart or something like that. And we want just straight reporting on Bernie Sanders' next speech or something along those lines. The problem is this. MGTOW is just an inversion of third wave feminism. The same sort of arguments are made. It's like you'd think. And I know that a bunch of MGTOW people pile on in the comment section. Most of them won't even watch the video the whole way through. They'll think that they know everything about my views. It'd be a little bit like a fundamentalist assuming I'm still a Satanist or something like that. If you choose to be ignorant of my views, you're never going to prevail in any conversation with me. If you consider me an enemy, well, then know your enemy. Actually watch the damn video. Then maybe you can have a coherent response people will take seriously for once. But here's the thing. You get some third wave feminist in some community college somewhere. And what do they say? As opposed to most women's rights advocates. Most women's rights people would say, well, rape is wrong. Some men are indeed sexist and problematic in nature. But it's not all men. The third waver, though, does say it's all men. It says, oh, all men have toxic masculinity. All men are rapists. All men have some other problem, psychologically or physically or something like that. They're responsible for your problems. When they're talking about the rape epidemic or something like that, what they're really referring to is two groups of people. They're talking about rapists, people who have actually raped somebody, and the judiciary body for doing too little about it. Likewise, when MGTOW speaks, they say, all women are at least suspect. A lot of them are gold diggers. A large proportion of them are out for your money. They're going to cheat on you, and then they'll get the kids and destroy your life, basically. So you should avoid contact with women, unless it's like a hooker or something. Or you can hook up with women, just, don't have a meaningful relationship, essentially. Yes, clearly a Western value. It's just third wave feminism that's been inverted by a group that seeks to push that same line. And here's the thing. Because most individuals who are male, who would consider themselves even a men's rights activist, they're worried about the judiciary. That is, getting screwed by the legal system. But the women involved in those relationships are not technically the ones doing the screwing, it's the judiciary body, and that has to do with the somewhat mythical wage gap. There is a wage gap between men and women in the United States, 77 cents to $1. But the reason for that gap is because women choose, voluntarily, types of employ within different fields that tend to pay less. It doesn't have anything to do with, oh, women make 77 cents to the dollar within the exact same job title. Like this female coal miner and that male coal miner, he makes $1 for every 77 cents he makes. That doesn't happen. It's illegal for one thing. I don't know if people understand that it already is. Number two, it just doesn't happen. No company wants to be saddled with that crap. No company would want to systemically pay its female workers less and end up with massive, massive fallout and probably bankruptcy if they did. They just don't want to. They'll pay the female employees more just to avoid that issue coming from the third waivers. And here's the thing. Here's the other part of it that we have to talk about when we're talking about women and man, gender wars and all that bullshit. The other thing would be this. You see a lot of articles lately. It's over the past month or so, they've been quite prevalent, especially from some of these groups. They say, oh, why can't my feminist girlfriends get a man? Why can't they get laid? Why can't they get a stable, long-term, loving relationship with a man? Maybe it has some... Maybe the fact that they're getting screwed in bed, or not getting screwed, I should say, actually. Maybe that's the result of what they say. Like, all men are evil, or men are rapists, or, hey, shut the fuck up, shitlord, you're mansplaining to me. Like, if I were looking for a relationship, would I want to be around somebody who treated me that way? No, I would consider it psychologically abusive. I wouldn't want anything to do with anybody like that. It's like, I wouldn't even want to communicate with somebody who acts like that. I'm not even going to seek out their company for other reasons. I'm not going to want to screw them. I'm not going to want to date them. I'm not even going to want to talk to them. I don't want to be anywhere near them. I want them to stay the fuck away from me. And then you have the same situation, I think, with MGTOW, where some people who are members, I'm not saying all, but some, certainly, I think even more honest MGTOW members, you got to fucking admit this. There are some dudes that join up and use that as their sort of description of their beliefs on the issue. Simply because they had a bad relationship and they feel demoralized, or they can't get laid. They're just incapable of getting into a relationship because they're so awkward, they're so screwed up in their mentality. What they say is so off the wall that they just turn off any women that they encounter. It'd be the same as a third waiver. Why can't they get a boyfriend? Maybe it's because of their attitude. Maybe nobody wants to date them because they are physically and mentally hideous half the time. Yeah, I think the same is probably true on the other end. If you have a system that's basically just an inversion of third wave feminism with a Y chromosome added in, then yeah, if the arguments are similar and the overall category, its total form is similar, you would expect other similarities potentially to arise too. I'm not saying that about all individuals, though. I think a lot of people are MGTOW because they gobbled up the propaganda regarding like divorce rates and stuff like that. And part of it is it's a misconstruing of actual statistics. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah, there are a lot of marriages that end in divorce. The statistic they're not telling you is what proportion of those divorces end in actually having child care payments or alimony or something like that. Is it a large proportion or is it a smaller proportion? So you see there's a different... I mean, if you got a job flipping burgers at McDonald's, a gold digger probably is not going to target you. No, the gold digger is going to go for that guy with the sports car. She's going to try to get banged by him, get knocked up, and then divorce him in order to get the child support payments. And she'll probably prevail in doing so. You know what the response is? You know what the proper thing to do is? Why don't you think before you screw? Why don't you... And the women should do the same thing. It's like they would say, well, some men are like total creeps. They might like shackle me up in their basement and start torturing me. Yeah, so make sound dating decisions. It's not that difficult. One problem is because of hookup culture being as is. Now, I don't care if people have like premarital sex. I have no moral opposition to it at all. But if you're participating in hookup culture, you do run that friggin' risk. STDs, getting taken for a ride by a gold digger, getting abducted by some creepy dude with a van or something like that. It does exist. There are repercussions. There shouldn't be any legal repercussions for somebody just hooking up, but there are moral repercussions. There are biological repercussions. There are physical repercussions. You get with someone who's a total fucking psychopath, ends up stabbing you in the neck and screwing your neck wound. Yeah, there are repercussions for these things. The sort of thing they don't teach you in community college. It's possible that that can happen. But people who, for no legitimate reason, simply say, without any real explanation of why they believe this, all men are, or all women are, non-argument. Doesn't make any sense to me. I still want some of these people to explain their views more fully. Instead, anytime I mention MGTOW, it's like if I mention third wave feminism. Am I going to get a third wave feminist to actually sit there and explain why they believe what they believe in, or are they simply going to say, oh, well, he's a white male, so he would never understand, he's got toxic masculinity. Screw him. I'm not going to bother explaining anything to him. Oh, probably the latter. 9 times out of 10, and I mean to make an effort. If they do and I continue to disagree with them, they'll say, oh, well, you're just a bigot, you're a rapist in training, or something like that. Likewise, if I spar with MGTOW, I say, well, why do you believe in what you believe? What personal anecdotes can you offer as to why you believe a significant proportion of women are potentially out to get you? Why are you so inordinately concerned about that small minority that are, admittedly, gold diggers or something like that? And instead of explaining it, I can't remember the channel name. There's one dude who sounded like he gargled whiskey every morning and chain smoked 4 or 5 packs a day. He had some monkey avatar or something like that and was a self-proclaimed MGTOW. And wouldn't really explain anything, just launched off into a bunch of insults. Yes, that's really how you grow a social movement with any degree of sanity. Okay, round of applause for you. That makes total sense. No, it doesn't. Why don't you try explaining yourself without all the nonsense? Then maybe somebody would actually believe you. That's how you do it. But no, we can't have that because our social movement is objective and self-evident. See, social movements destroy themselves constantly by making that claim. Social justice warriors, third wavers, whatever it happens to be on the left, they're destroying their own movements. They used to stand for something, now they don't. They start gobbling one another up and cannibalizing one another. The new right runs the same risk. MGTOW is already involved in it. They just cannibalize themselves. They'll go into a purity spiral at some point over some minutia debate over whether some women can or cannot be exonerated, or over women of different races as applied to divorce statistics, or something like that. I can see that happening. So hating women is dumb. It's about the same as being a man-hater. Because you don't know all women or all men. Well, if you want to take yourself out of the dating game and just screw around, yeah, that's fine. By the way, that doesn't exonerate you from the possibility of knocking somebody up and ending up with, like, child payments or something like that. Certainly doesn't protect you from the possibility of STDs or meetings. What if the gold digger just fucking drugs you or something like that? Have you ever even thought of this? But you're participating in hookup culture. You think that makes you, I guess, more masculine or something. I'm an alpha male. I go my own way. All I do is bang whores or something. Yes, okay. Very alpha Western male. Very wonderful of you, I suppose. So when your genitals start rotting off, then don't blame me for when that happens, I suppose. Wouldn't it be better to try to get with somebody who's like your idea of a traditional wife? But the thing is, they're not going to have tolerance for that. They're not going to tolerate your attitude most of the time. It's like if there's some third waver saying, oh, well, I'll get with some nice liberal dude. They're not going to tolerate you. They're not going to tolerate being constantly browbeaten every fucking day. Unless they're just a total, they would have to be the most total beta in the world to deal with that. They'd have to be into literal cuckoldry or something like that. Now, yeah, I'm going out with my boyfriend. Yeah, see you later, husband, or something like that. It's like that sort of stuff actually happens. They tried to push, by the way. This was as a funny aside, has nothing to do with the rest of this video. They actually tried to push off cuckoldry as like the intellectual man's fetish or something like that. I think that was Salon that did that, although it may have been Vice. That was just so dumb. It's just so dumb to read the weird shit that they come up with. Yes, smart men prefer to see their wives get screwed by other people. Somehow this is a major turn-on for them. Yeah, there isn't an intellectual man in any of these organizations. They're all either total sellout men, or they're not male at all. They're females, 90% of them, that are writing these sort of crap articles. It would be like you have MGTOW Monthly magazine or something, the Triple M or something like that. And expecting to have like a female perspective, or a perspective that isn't heavily skewed towards that small minority of men. No, why all women should be deliberately infected with different strains of STDs to tell who they slept with. Why women should be locked up in the basement, and why women need to be barefoot in the kitchen or something like that. Why we should return to the glorious days of sexual slavery, something along those lines. I wouldn't put it past some people to suggest that that was a good idea. So these sort of weird, untenable social movements, I don't really have a lot of patience for them. It's like, I can have some traditionalist views and not be a fan of MGTOW. There's like somebody can be like a total leftist and say, well, like, third wavers are crazy or something like that. And there are people that are like that. They're like, yeah, I'm basically a socialist, but I don't understand the third wave thing. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, you want to chop my balls off and lock me up in your basement for sexual favors or something. And that's really, we've got a confusing world to live in right now. The internet, while it's great for dispensing information, has helped give rise to a bunch of these little crazy movements, none of which appear to make much sense. Doesn't even really matter what other groups they align themselves with either, like what political or religious ideology they're part of. It's like some of these people are totally nuts. Like they would have been locked up on the funny farm 100 years ago. Yeah, some of them probably still should be, in all honesty. You get someone like, what was his, Carl the Cuck or something like that. Yeah, I can understand why you'd think you'd probably want to avoid that individual. Probably not the most fun person at the party, something like that. That's about all. Peace out.